Welcome to the What's Our Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts Matt Senheiner.
Better read than dead.
And Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
We are here live. We're a day late than we normally are. We will go back to Mondays, but
happy Monday, everybody.
And all that fun shit. Like, my doorbell was ringing like crazy. I was so mad. They started so early yesterday. Anyway, but it was fun. I mean, we had tons of kids, so I was like, we're going to record, and it's just going to be ding dong, and then I'll just be irritated. So Tuesday, we're doing this live this time for this week. Starting a new show. Don't know. I think it's kind of flying under the radar right now, to be honest with you. It's called The Peripheral. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a Prime original. They've released 3 episodes. So we're going to talk about the first 3 episodes. I think it's a good mesh of getting into the show. Good jumping off point. And then we'll do Mondays episodically from here on out. There's only 8, so we've got 5 more episodes after this. And so I think it's interesting. It's got the same creators as Westworld.
Yeah, I just saw that in the little promo thing we put. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're producing it. They haven't been as involved, obviously, as they are in Westworld. Like, they don't write the episodes necessarily. I think they've helped write them, but they're more producing on the producing side. But yeah, same creators, same kind of spins and twists. It's based on a book series, which I'm not reading as much as, like, it's killing me not to read them.
Yeah,
but I decided
what happens.
Yeah, but I've decided that I will not read it until the show, because I don't want to know more. I'm enjoying the intrigue of not knowing. So,
well, yeah, no, I didn't know that was based on a book. I love to read, but it's what's hard is JJ usually, like with House of the Dragon and crap, he knows things that I think at times probably many times you wish you didn't know, so you could just sit there and be like, oh snap. Yeah. And I would love to read this book, but I also don't want to read it right now because I don't know what's happening and I'm loving it.
Yeah, that's the same. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch this like a normal person that doesn't read every book that's come out. But I mean, I guess it's been around a while. I guess the books came out in like 2014, the first book. So, I mean, it's been around a minute. So I think that's cool. I've also heard that it's very different so far. Like, there's not, other than the characters, like the storyline's been very different. Which is also interesting.
Read it then, because then we'd hate the TV show.
Well, and that's another thing. Like, I was like, I think I'm just gonna not read this series, and I think I'm just gonna enjoy it as a TV show, because I don't want that to be around there. But I will say that I was hooked almost instantly. Like, the idea of everybody knows I'm a big gamer. I enjoy gaming, and so the idea of this, like, virtual reality, like, even at the beginning where you see her jump in for Burton as, like, because people do that shit. Like, I won't lie, like, my gaming crew, we've paid for Sherpas to run us through stuff because we don't have as big a group as we used to on certain games. And so we've had them come through and they'll, like, carry you. So, I mean, there's people out there making money, like, carrying people through and Sherping people through games. So, I mean, it's certainly out there. And so I thought it was really interesting that here's this take on this making money playing video games. I love that. And playing video games and using that talent that you have to run people through. There's a ton of money in it. I'm telling you. If I had more time on my hands and didn't have currently I don't, but if I had at some point didn't have a full-time job again,
I can't fathom right now paying someone to be like the anchor on my Overwatch team or something right now. I'm like, I'll just go on a vacation, then pay someone to do that. But each their own.
Yeah, and I don't think you get it. Like, Overwatch, you won't see it as much because there's nothing. But, like, there's end-game content in certain games, like, where, like, raids and dungeons and things that are, like, high-level, hard content. And so, yeah, people get paid all the time to carry
it.
But
you didn't earn it yourself. You got someone else to do. That's part of the fun. Is you gotta grind.
I agree, but I won't lie. I have never paid out of my own pocket, but I've been gifted a run to where, I've logged in someone.
It's good to know that's a good gift for you, JJ. I'm gonna keep that in the back of my head.
Yep. Yeah, it was fun. So I was really like I was hooked the instant we see Burton be like, okay, I need you to go run this, like finish this for me. We're struggling. And she
And
goes
did you
in
were
and
like, I need that type of video game because I was like, man, shoot, that
yeah,
looks like as realistic as possible. Taylor is hooked on the show with me, and she's like, wait, do you think that was real? I was like, no, that was set back in the day. I'm sure that looked like a video game through and through, but shoot,
yeah.
that looked super realistic.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Just the idea of that kind of a video game, that level of virtual reality has always just been so obsessive for me. Like I
But
can't wait.
this show, and we'll get into the meat of it. Really, as we started into it, and she got that uh, headset that, and we started again. I was like, man, it feels like we're kind of getting into the Matrix in some ways, more so than just time travel. That's where my brain keeps going as they do this, because they're almost, yes, it's in the future, but it's the way she's pipelined into it feels more like kind of what the Matrix is to me to an extent, which has been interesting.
Yeah. I thought the same thing. I went, and then when we find out later, when she goes into this new version, and you find out that the peripheral actually stands for
Yeah.
this android type body that she has when she goes into the future. Like I was like, okay, I almost texted Alec, but it was like 2 a.m. when I was watching this episode, and I thought of it. I was like, dude, it's like the Matrix meets Westworld
Yeah.
meets Back to the Future. Like, this is freaking cool. I was like, so it's really interesting the way it's playing out, and I'm enjoying it. And Burton is the coolest dude on the planet. Like, I love that
Burton's
guy.
the best.
Yeah, Burton's hilarious. I think that's one of my favorite parts of the show is the cast is, other than her, and I can't even think of the actress's name right now.
Chloe Grace Moretz.
That's right, Chloe Grace Moretz. And I've seen Burton, the actor who plays Burton, in something, but other than that, like, and then the who we've learned now is like the villain. She's been in something recently too that I can't think of. But
Did you forget about Dolores's papa?
well, yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, we did have the original Mr. Abernathy in there, which I think is cool, but none of them are A-list. Like, she's as close to a high-level actress as we get, and she hasn't really done anything outside of, a couple of movies with Denzel and that carried her through. So I like that, though. I'm not distracted by who's in it.
Mm-hmm. And it makes it hard to predict who's important to the story.
True. Very true. Yeah. What about you, Alec? I know you've got some, you've enjoyed the show so far. Like, what are some of your thoughts on this thing?
I have loved it since I got the 45 text messages from JJ telling me that I needed to watch it as soon as possible. And I started watching it without Oceana, and then she got home from work and was pissed, so I had to watch it again, and then she fell asleep. So I watched it again. So I've seen the first 3 episodes like 3 times already.
Wow.
And they are awesome. And I've loved it because it's got that feel of Westworld, but also it adds in the intrigue from Rings of Power, which we just did. So Amazon is killing it as far as I'm concerned with the shows that they're putting out, because this is amazing content. And I want to know how I can get Burton's little haptics that he has.
Right.
Where it links up. I mean, I don't have any friends, so I can't really link up with a buddy, but that whole idea about like how far technology has advanced was really cool. And I enjoyed it in episode 3. We got the story about how the Marine Corps recruits. Like, just go to a small town, find a bunch of buddies, and link them together. It's like, that is super cool. I could use some of that.
Well, and I love too, like, that we learned also in the 3rd episode, like some of the realistic, like, carryover things that are believable as far as like downsides to something like this, right? So this, what he called the haptic drift, where that connection creates these feelings of, because I mean, it's part of it, almost like they become their psyche or id or whatever you want to call it. Their ego kind of becomes part of you. So you have this like almost feeling of love, like Burton describes it, even because of that connection there. And then I also like too where he talks about when he's talking to Corbett or whatever the hell his last name
Corbell
is.
Pickett.
Corbell Pickett, that's the guy. When he's talking to him and he's like, you know,
I jumped the guy in a
beat the
bar.
shit out of some dude because, and I don't know why, other than my connection to another soldier made me hate him because of something he did in that guy's past. I'm like, ooh, see, that's the kind of things that when you think about that kind of connection, that I'm like, yeah, I could see that happening, right? Like you have this carryover of neural synapse that you're like, shit.
I could also see that being something that was not planned or anticipated.
Yeah.
And as a potentially lethal side effect to it.
Sure. Well, and I can also see the government saying it's an acceptable downside,
risk.
Right? Yeah, it's an acceptable risk to have this connect, because you also see the freaking badass side too when he points and the dude instantly shoots the glass. He's like, that's my stick, dick bag. Like
that was a like, dope scene.
Yeah, it was so good. Just like this. Oh, so good.
But Mr. Pickett's gonna cross him. But I wanted to say, ask my co-host and our listening audience think about this as well. What's the worst way to die? Because in episode 3 we saw 2 different ways. Would you rather suffocate in a vehicle in like 140-degree heat that's going to take like an hour for you to die, or do you want to drink some tea that has pheromones that attract a bunch of wasps that sting you to death, but you're going to die probably quicker, but I'm sure way more painfully? Let's talk about 2 very different ways to go, but 2 horrible ways to die.
Yeah. I'm taking the bees.
I think I'm going bees. Oh, but man, that terrifies me.
It's over quick.
I hate bees, but is it over that quick though?
It's over quicker than sitting in a hot car being slowly cooked alive.
I get that.
I just have I'm allergic to bees, like deathly allergic to bees. Like
you'll be out so quick.
Yeah, I mean, I have to carry like a freaking EpiPen everywhere I go, just in case I get stung. Because
the trauma though of them just swarming you like that.
Oh, well, and it's like watching anything where like those shows where they pile the bees on them and they're kind of just and I'm like but there's a level of fear there for me because like that's death for me, you know what I mean? So it's like I'm mortified by bees, so even watching that scene like made my skin crawl. So I don't like, I would say that I would take the bees because of the fact that because of my allergy, 2 stings and I'm done.
JJ, this surprises me though, because our listening audience, if they've been paying attention through the years, should know you are also basically allergic to heat.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the problem. There's no good way that this ends for me, because most people you get stung like that with that many bees and it's over quickly because you go into like anaphylactic shock.
Sure.
And then for me, like I would suffocate before I went into anaphylactic shock because I swell up like a balloon.
Well, it's definitely a way for you to go. The heat thing, I don't know why. I think we were about to eat, so I didn't have time to text. So I was like, JJ would just like, I don't know. Dude. JJ would lose all function.
Yeah, it would be bad. Like that's another, because I've sat in a hot car before just for like 2 minutes and be like, what's this like? And I'm like, this is not okay. And that, because I've always, I'm the kind of guy that if I see you because I've seen dogs in parking lots that people have left them in there, and I'll break windows. I don't give a shit, because don't do that, especially to dogs. I like dogs more than people. So it's, I will break your dog out of the parking lot. So I've done it to kind of see, and I'm like, it's horrible. So I can't imagine, because you'd just like boil, it just, that's too much heat. So I choose neither. If I can.
An extension from that though, it's interesting in this show, we are presented with kind of 2 different villains at the moment. 2 different organizations headed by 2 people, which I've really enjoyed. One being Mr. Pickett, that we know less about, but we have a pretty good. I love the backstory they showed with that man. I mean, we're talking about the bikers and everything. Like, way to set your turf and just be like, look, Like, I mean, I was just blown away. That was like Walter White.
Yeah.
Well, why can't I think of the show? What's that show called? Breaking Bad.
Breaking
That was
Bad.
like Walter White Breaking Bad status. I was like, damn. But then you
Mhm.
got this other chick who, what's her name? She's the head of the RI, the Research Institute. I don't remember her name, but she's got some killer instinct to her as well. One, she made the floor disappear. I think it was like an illusion, or I don't know how that works, made it look like the floor disappeared, but she could walk on it. I'm not sure how that works. Have a question there. And then two, when she killed that doctor, like that lady definitely is not holding back. Like she don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And they're
Um,
both intriguing. Like I like both of them. And
yeah,
I
because
think like that's hard to do. I'm trying to think of the last show where like we got two people within the first couple episodes that I'm like, dude, give me more of both. I'm digging it.
yeah, yeah. Dr. Newland is her.
Yeah,
Sharice Newland is her name. She's
oh man.
brutal. Well, and and I'm with you, Matt, and I think they've done great with both villains because, and all the kudos to I keep wanting to call him Peter Abernathy, but I don't even know. Lewis Hertham is the actor. Lewis Hertham's the actor's name because he plays a fantastic redneck, smart asshole. Like it's perfection, and I believe it. Like I believe he's ruthless and will kill anyone, especially after the third episode where we see what he did to the biker
Oh
gang.
yeah, he don't care.
And then there's this whole other side of, and he's like your conventional villain, right? Like he'll kill you in terrible ways, but it's so close to our time frame that there's nothing weird about what he can do necessarily. Lock you in a hot car, shoot you, do whatever it is. Slam your hand into a glass when you're his nephew. I mean, there's some terrible shit going on, right? But then you have this future, the Dr. Newland, and she terrifies me because you don't know how she's going to kill you. Is she going to open the floor out from underneath you? Is she going to freaking control a swarm of bees by giving you tea and just walk right through them as they murk your ass? Like, it's just terrifying. And she doesn't care. Like, the woman's like, I got small children. Great. I don't care. You know what I mean? And she uses it to just instill more fear. So I'm with you. Very compelling villains, very frightening villains. Like you don't want to cross these people, obviously. So yeah, great show. I am
So
totally
the good
100%
people
in.
in the show, I'm like, you guys are screwed. You got two ruthless people in your real timeline and the future timeline that want you gone.
Yeah. The only thing that gets me though is that haptic connection, which, man, when they took on those freaking
the wet team that came after
yeah,
him?
dude, that was brutal. And then you get the dude in the wheelchair that comes in and he's just sitting there chilling. He just takes these dudes down.
That's JJ's kind of guy.
Seriously.
Hit a couple back and just pop them.
Love that, dude. Like what I love when they used to have when Burton's having the conversation with him, he's laying on his trailer, like, I don't know, I'll let you know in the morning. Are you gonna remember this conversation? It's about 50-50.
But we didn't. The other thing I wanted to talk about, the cool tech with the cars. Like, I mean, I thought that. I mean, to be completely honest, like it's not mind blowing, but at the same time, I'm like, man, they executed that so well. And I'm not exactly sure how the soldiers have that in this timeline. I don't know, but it just looked dang cool. And the coffee cup thing with that the cop Tommy, whatever his name was, I love that. I was just like, man, that's so stinking cool. That a little bit of CGI can go a long ways.
Yeah. Well, and they talk about that's the crazy piece about this is, and the thing that I'm looking most forward to, I think, with this show is this crossover of future and almost current timelines, right? So this 70-year gap, there's obviously a massive amount of tech from this 70-year future that we're dealing with that's way more advanced than what they have in the current timeline. And I'm also so watching that carry over, like how does that translate? Like we've already seen money change hands to where they're able to buy the 3D printing joint, able to offer up $200,000 a week. I mean, that's a shitload of money to just go, here you go. And then you've seen the invisible cars. What other tech are they going to send, right? So I'm intrigued by this battle of let's load up this. And the crazy thing, and here's a question for you, and because my understanding is that the timeline with Burton and Flynn isn't even directly connected to the future timeline.
Yeah, you're
It's
right.
a break off point,
It's a
right?
stub.
So yeah, so it doesn't even, whatever they do in the past in this timeline doesn't even affect their future if timelines work that way, right? So it's intriguing to me because I think my theory, ongoing theory is there was obviously that something happened in the future timeline to wipe out a lot of
Well,
people.
they said the jackpot. That's what I want to ask
The
you guys.
jackpot,
That
that's
word,
right.
I was like, what the hell does that mean? Because that clearly is like the moment.
Yeah, and based on the preview for episode 4, I think we're going to finally see what that might be. But obviously, I think they're trying to find a way. My guess is they'll work with this stub, and maybe that's what they're working in these past timelines, is try to find a way to avoid or overcome the jackpot to create this new future that doesn't have this 80%, I think it was that she said, of the population, human population, and all these other animals that are basically gone, to where they have to keep recreating them. So that's my long-term guess for what they're trying to do here. But I really love the dynamic of this future that in reality cannot be affected by what they're doing in the past, and yet it's so important because she saw something, right, in this kidnapping or whatever, this heist that she went on. So I just love the intrigue and how everything ties together.
What were was it episode 1 again with Alita and that triangle thing that was coming down and she was shoving Burton and why am I forgetting the girl's name?
Flynn.
Yeah, Flynn, who's Flynn, like shoving her eye in there, and that didn't actually fully. And then that guy attacked him, the security guy. What do we think that is? Because that was clearly super important, but they didn't get to finish the job.
Yeah,
Alec, you have any thoughts?
To the Bat Cave.
I like the water thing. That was cool. I'm like, I need that in my house. Like, let me just walk in. That's very therapeutic.
Well, I like the brick curtain. Are you kidding me? I have arrived, and the brick curtain folds out. That thing's dope as shit. Anyway,
I'm curious about your theories, Alec, because you've seen it clearly the most of all of us. So what are your thoughts on all this?
The water feature?
Well, no, just like
the beam in her eye,
that triangle thing that she was shoving. Alita was shoving Flynn, aka Burton, getting scanned in, and just your thoughts around that.
It's got to be something to do with Dr. Newland
mm-hmm.
And the shady stuff she's got going on. I actually think Dr. Newland may be AI. And so whatever Alita's up to is trying to figure out what Newland is doing.
I can get behind that.
And I think that Newland might be the one behind the jackpot.
That's fair. I think that's a good speculative choice at the beginning. Yeah, she's got some wicked powers to be even like a peripheral, right? Like, so it's, I can see the AI thing being, and maybe even she is a version of the jackpot.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like, or sounded like when they talked about it, it's kind of this thinking thing that takes down the world. I wondered if that little beam of light when she was holding her eye up at the end, if that wasn't some sort of like data transfer, and they just haven't figured out how to get that out. Like maybe my guess is maybe it created like a latent memory of some sort within Flynn's head. That's why she's important. Because they keep talking about witnessing something, but she didn't really witness anything. She was just part of it. And as far as she's concerned, Alita's gone. So other than finding Alita, I don't know what value she brings other than, like I said, that to me, I was wondering if maybe that's some sort of data transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And through that process, she has some sort of latent memory that's just kind of hanging out in there.
The other question I had, Alex, since you've seen this enough, is with Alita and Wilf, that whole adoption scene thing like that. What was going on there again? Like they were orphans and they were being recruited into some agency I would need to go back and watch that again to understand it better, but you've seen it enough, and I'm a little confused there.
Yeah, so I think they were orphans who were living on the street together. They were reclaimed, which probably has to do with propagating the species. Can't have feral orphans running around if 80% of the population has been wiped out. But they, in like anybody who's kind of been through that, they were not going to be separated whatsoever. So I don't know if they were recruited to anything until later. But originally, I think it was just rehoming them and letting us know that they have a deeper connection than we were originally led to believe.
Got it.
Well, and it seems to me like there's at least, so we have RI, right? So there's that faction of like the, excuse me, the man, if you want to call it that, or like the power, the overarching power of the world at that time, the RI. And then you have this obvious, some form of Russian mob collective. I don't know what you want to call it, with the guy that's kind of on the side and they're playing around in the stubs with their hackers or whatever it is that Wilf is connected to with that guy. So it almost seems to me like this with Wilf and Alita, when they were adopted, it seems like obviously the elite probably run the world even more so than they, with 80% of the population wiped out. That gap of haves and have nots has probably grown exponentially into like huge gulf. So for me, it almost seems like maybe part of this, because it seemed like they couldn't have kids. Maybe that's part of the jackpot thing, is that it eliminated the ability to have kids, because this couple came in looking to adopt and they wanted the wife wanted the girl. The husband was convinced to take both. So I'm wondering if it's just a matter of continuing that family line as well, for at least the elites that came in and were able to do it. So this school reclaims these orphans that are on the street, raise them into these proper human beings that can be blend in with the elite and become family members, which to me, that's what seemed like the mom's issue wasn't necessarily, I think they tried to lean it into being a race thing. To me, it felt more like, I can't pawn this kid off as my own, right? Like there's no way to say this is my child without people knowing it came from adoption. And in that kind of a society, that's an issue, right? That's something that you have to think about. So that's kind of the feel that I got for that. But there's a lot of intriguing shit going on in this show.
For real.
Yeah.
The giant statue skyscrapers, like those
I think
things, I'm
those are
like,
dope.
They're dope, but I'm like, why? And what purpose? They're huge. Like they gave you
They clean the air.
Yeah, they clean the air. They're functional. Like they're what keep the jackpot and diseases and everything else away, is my understanding.
Okay, I missed that, but they look, I'm like, damn, they're big.
Yeah, they're huge. Well, and I love that they're all based on like mythical
The pantheon
gods.
of gods.
Yeah, exactly. It's very intriguing. I hope we get some backstory. Like, I think that's the coolest thing about this show so far to me, is that the world that it's set in intrigues the living hell out of me. Like, even beyond like the story that we're following, I want backstory on the future. Like, I want to know more about why did they build them that way? What are the machines for? Even more than just cleaning the air. But like, yeah, so there's so much that I'm interested in learning about this world. I think it's cool.
The last thing I want to say is I griped about this with Star Wars, about since it was in the 70s, early 80s, and what they perceive future technology to look like, and how they're kind of stuck in it being retro. But what I like about the show is the future tech they're implementing is believable to an extent. Now, I don't know where we'll be in, 2077, but I like that with the haptics that Burton has. And then you fast forward, like 40, 50 years, then they can tune into each other's all the senses and see what they're seeing. But that seems like a logical technology step from the haptics to that, which I'm like, okay, like I like that. And then like the robots, for instance, I have to say, damn, those things are terrifying to me. They just, every time I see them, like, I am afraid that they are just gonna go berserk and like go off the reservation. They look really cool, but I've just appreciated like the cool pulse thing that security guy had. Like the tech it's futuristic, but it's also believable, but it stretches my imagination. I really appreciate that. And they've still left, like, there's still cars that look like cars, but they have those arrows, and it's not like too futuristic. We're like, yeah, like it's cool, but I don't know where we'll be there. But I think they've done a good job blending both.
Yeah. It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's an interesting show.
I'm glad you told us to watch it, JJ, because I very much like it.
Yeah, I'm glad I decided to. I'd been seeing commercials for it, and I was like, I'm just going to check it out. And then I watched the first one, and I was like,
single. I forgot I'd seen a commercial for it. It was the scene where whatever that thing shoots out and whatever that is, which the jackpot maybe or whatever. Yeah. But I haven't seen it in so long. I was like, oh yeah, like I did see this one time, but this show is. I guess episode 4 we're gonna find out a lot, which I cannot wait for.
I hope so. Yeah, I think if I had one gripe, it's Chloe Grace Moretz's shitty Southern accent. It's
in
terrible.
That Appalachia accent.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Especially because she can't hold it. Like she comes out of it all the time, and I'm like, oh God, stop it. But yeah, it's like, come on, just put her somewhere that doesn't have require a Southern accent.
Where are they though? Do we
Appalachia?
Yeah, they haven't said like a state, but it's somewhere either Virginia, Tennessee, West Virginia. Based on kind of the look and the way that they talk, I would assume it's like Southern Tennessee, somewhere in there.
Seems pretty deep south.
Yeah, not too deep, but like I grew up in.
Yeah, I was gonna say JJ
Appalachian
would know.
Mountains. Like that's like I said, I used to drive through a pass, the Cumberland Gap. That I used to live in Tennessee, drove 5 minutes through Virginia to go to high school in Kentucky. So it's like I know that whole. Yeah, I know that area very well. And yeah, it's beautiful down there. But yeah, her accent drives me crazy. Yeah, that's what I did. And then they built a tunnel.
Oh my
gosh. They built when I was like 17, they built what's called like 16, they built like the Cumberland Gap tunnel. And then it was just driving from Tennessee to Kentucky. You bypassed the little smidge of Virginia that we used to have to drive through. But we had to drive like it was crazy. We would drive before the tunnel. You had to drive on this road that like you look down and it was a fall off cliff. There was like a set of caves like you could climb in. It was crazy. And then they built that tunnel, and then it was just you drive through the tunnel. But yeah, anyway,
sweet.
I know the area. It's cool. So yeah, looking forward to it. We'll be back next week to talk episode 4. We'll just do this episodically until it's over. Alec, tell everybody where they can find us, my friend.
All right. Merry Christmas, everyone. The Peripheral has become our new live Monday show, brought to you today on Tuesday because we pride ourselves on being flexible. If you have not yet listened to the Black Adam release that dropped yesterday, your life is currently unfulfilled and not complete. That episode, like all of our episodes, can be found wherever you get your podcasts. We are also on Patreon, where you can participate in some pay-to-play activities that include dictating the content that is released by the podcast. And they're contributing every dollar goes towards Mattson's strawberry bonbon addiction. As always, we appreciate the listen. Drop us a like or a comment to let us know if your verdict lines up with ours. Back to you, JJ.
Thanks, buddy. I love all these deep cut references, like the strawberry bonbons. It's beautiful. Mattson's looking them up because he doesn't know what
just had their. Oh, I hate those things. I hate those. I think I said I hate these. Those are the worst.
That's why.
Oh my gosh! I was like, wait, no, those things are horrible.
Oh, it's me that actually has an obsession with them, but that's.
Did me dirty right there, Alec.
That was funny. Well, there it is. We appreciate you tuning in. As always, we'll catch you on the next one.
Wait.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!